Welcome back to Onward to Victory for this episode. What is this, episode 15 now? 14? Something like that. We're back for another episode of Onward to Victory. My name is Colgin Hirschel. Alongside me is Rhiannon Boesl and Taylor Gautney. And once again, we have a very jam-packed show with lots of ASU sports teams doing well, some of them not as well, some of them losing players, which we might touch on a little bit. But for now, we'll start with a team that has some hope for the future, ASU hockey. So last weekend, Arizona State played Western Michigan. They went in against the Broncos as the number 3 seed, or the Broncos were the number 3 seed. Arizona State was number 12. Pairwise is a whole different thing, too confusing to mention in this. But they went in expecting to get swept on home ice, which would have been the first time since February of 2023. And they split a series when in reality they should have swept. In the second game, Arizona State led with about 5-10 minutes left to go in the third period. Western Michigan scored to tie it up, and then in overtime, there was a controversial interference play. Western Michigan went down and scored. Eero Harkarainen got the winner for the Broncos and ended the game and gave Arizona State a split against a very good team. So it was overall a good weekend for the Sun Devils, even though they dropped in the pairwise rankings, which is a whole other thing.
Yeah, and this series was pretty interesting. You know, we had Cohen Potter kind of popping out for the first time in a long time. He had 3 goals this series, but he had 2 within the last loss, which was pretty heartbreaking for ASU. But, you know, like we said, this is a great matchup. Western Michigan ranked number 3. The way that they can at least compete, take that win, and, you know, they lost in overtime, so it's heartbreaking, but they fought hard. So it's really interesting and really, you know, it's still encouraging, especially as they wrap up this season. It was a great series for sure.
Yeah, you know, Arizona State hockey is kind of right there. They play Omaha next, and they need a sweep to get that NCAA at-large bid, hopefully hosting an NCHC quarterfinal game here. But, you know, not looking at it, they went 1-1 against Omaha here, and they're 1-6-1 all time in Omaha. Of course, Omaha went 0-2 versus Western Michigan. Arizona State got the win, so you look at the matchup, it's a pretty even matchup, and yeah, Arizona State is just right there. You just got to win these next 2 games, and you'll prosper from it.
Yeah, so I've mentioned pairwise a couple of times. I'll do a brief summary of what it is. Basically, there's the USCHO rankings, which involves, that's just like an overall ranking. That's just a more visually appealing ranking, completely different from pairwise, which is determined by a mathematical formula that determines the ranking of the teams. Top 16 teams make the NCAA playoffs, 10 of which come from an at-large bid, which is the top 10 teams that aren't conference champions, which the 6 conference champions make up the other 6 spots. Super confusing. Don't really understand why they do it like that, and maybe so it makes it more fair. I don't know. But Arizona State went into the weekend at number 15 in the pairwise, expecting to get swept, which would have dropped them a lot. They got the split. In game 1, they actually went down a ranking to number 16. After the win against Western Michigan, which was confusing. Other teams won by better, I guess. Affected their pairwise a little bit more. I think probably a team won on the road because road wins affect it more than home wins. But then the second game, they didn't drop at all. So they're currently ranked 16. They need to get to about, I'd say probably 14 because there's 2 conference champions below them that would jump up. So they need to get to about 14 to make the NCAA tournament. But with that being said, in that first game, Arizona State, it was all Arizona State. They never trailed against the Broncos. Multiple goals in the first period got them up. Ryan Kerwin got his 20th goal this season. Tyler Jackson had 2 in that game. So it was an overall domination performance by Arizona State, but you can look at it as not as a failure of a weekend, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know how it is really for the other sports in depth, but In football, if you are the number 12 seed or number 15 seed and you beat the number 5 seed,
That's huge.
you go up. Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Also, like in football, you look at it with all the playoff stuff. They do the 4 conference champions or whatever, the buys, and then, like you said, once you beat a team that's higher ranked than you, you move up. That's why you had SMU, you had smaller teams, not Alabama, because the head-to-head and the common opponent that they played, SMU won, Alabama didn't. So it's weird how hockey does it.
it's just, I can try and find the mathematical formula right now. It's just,
I'm just excited to see like how this the postseason would go for hockey. I feel like it's been a very interesting season of like matchups and wins and losses. I feel like there hasn't been that many sweeps. It's been a pretty the matchups have been pretty even, I feel like, or surprising. There have been some surprising wins and some heartbreaking losses. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see like what the postseason will bring.
yeah, to piggyback off that, every single game for Arizona State at home has been their biggest game of the season. You go back to early January when they played North Dakota. That was the biggest series, and they split with that one against North Dakota. The first game was huge. They won that one big. Second one, they lost in overtime. They played 4 straight overtime games against Denver and Duluth. They won one in each of those series. One was in a shootout. But every single game that they have played has been the biggest game for about a month and a half, and that's only going to continue to keep growing and continue to be true, which to some point you look at it and you say, well, hey, when is a game just a game?
Mm-hmm.
Like for them, because for all these other teams, it's kind of just like, oh, it's just another game. Like especially for Western Michigan, they're already going to get an at-large bid. They'll probably win the NCHC, so they're in. But for Arizona State, they're fighting for their lives every single game, and they've kind of proven to everybody that they have what it takes.
Yeah, and they're like making their presence known heading into this new conference. And I'm really excited to see like how they face Omaha. Their last series they played they split, but this was in Mullet Arena, so I'm curious how they're gonna show up in Omaha.
Yeah, they're 1-6-1 all time against them when playing in Nebraska. So
hopefully they can pop out.
Yeah, they don't really
stay
have
aggressive.
They don't have very good success when it comes. Their road games are always much closer than the home games. The Inferno or 942 crew or whatever they call themselves at Mullet do a much better job than every other stadium, in my opinion. It's by far one of the biggest factors as to why ASU can be so dominant at home.
And the team itself just has like that energy and that like chemistry, and I think that they kind of connect well with their fans and that they connect with that energy within the arena. And yeah, definitely being on the road is going to be a challenge. So hopefully that they can pull those wins out.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens this week in Omaha. But for another team at Arizona State, the Big 12 Swim and Dive Championships will be starting tomorrow. And Taylor, what do we got on that?
Yeah, so Arizona State comes in as the 1 seed in both men's and women's tournaments. The men's is number 4. The women's are number 17 in the country. Arizona State has had 33 winners of Big 12 Swim and Dive Athletes of the Week, men's and women's. They're definitely the favorite to win this entire thing. The first events start tomorrow with the 200 medley relay, team diving, 800 freestyle relay to see who will compete in the following days. Then they'll do prelims, then they'll do finals, and it just keeps going up from there. And yeah, last year they really dominated this tournament.
Yeah, All-American Lindsay Looney, she won in the 500 freestyle. And I just want to say, shout out to swimmers, shout out to dive, because that just seems so incredibly hard, and like the endurance that they have to have, and it's just shout out to them. And last year, the men, they won 15 races in the Pac-12 championship to win their second straight conference title. So hopefully they will be checking out with their third straight and their first in the Big 12.
Yeah, just another team that has been dominant this year. I mean, I think swim and dive has always been good. I mean, Arizona swimming kind of synonymous, kind of, more correlates with Arizona than other sports. But it just, you got guys like Leon Marchand who have come out of this program and other really good swim and divers. I mean, my roommate is on the club swim team, and I know people who are on water polo, which I know is a completely different sport, but
So impressive.
involves the water, and all of the athletes who come out of Arizona State from those programs go on to have good careers. I mean, Leon Marchand won.
Supporting the USA.
Well, Marchand's France.
Well, still.
But yeah.
Mhm.
But he's won so many gold medals and stuff in his career, and he's just been so good at the Olympics.
Yeah, and another guy to look out for coming up at ASU right now is Isla Karan. He holds the 50 free school record with the 18.51, and then the 100 fly school record with the 43.85. He won the 100 fly and 200 fly last season at the Pac-12 championships and is looking for another sweep. And then on the women's side, Caroline Benz is definitely the name to look out for. She's broken 4 school records, including a 50 free, 100 free, 100 back, 200 back. She's placed top 10 in the last 4 conference championships. She's a graduate this year. And she got a top 3 finish last season with Virginia Tech in the ACC. Of course, transferring here, getting a new opportunity in the Big 12. But, yeah, this Arizona State team is heavy favorites going into this tournament. And I think everyone expects them to go out, take care of business, and win this thing.
Yeah, so as they'll look ahead to their Big 12 championships, we'll look ahead to a little bit of break here where we got Something to Believe in by the Young the Giant. And we're back on Onward to Victory here on this Monday evening. My name is Colgin Hirschel, Rhiannon Boesl, Taylor Gautney. We're going to jump right into things and go right into the hardwood with a little bit of Alston Mason on the basketball team.
Yeah, so Alston Mason, he's a senior coming out of Missouri State. He played 2 years there. He started his college career at Oklahoma. He only played 18 games there. He played really well at Missouri, but right now he's showing out for ASU. He's leading the team in points, and he's also doing really well defensively. He's doing a really great job leading this team and kind of having that fire and the leadership.
Yeah, Alston Mason's really I saw a thing the other day. It was top glue guys in college basketball, and Alston Mason, he is the glue guy for this team.
They kind of need a lot of glue right now. So
yeah, and their games against Texas Tech and Houston, you look at his past 5 games, he's played 35, 33, 40, 46, 40 minutes. TCU, Oklahoma State, he played the entire game. He didn't take a break. He's put up 2 of his top games against Houston and Oklahoma State, too. Of course, Houston is number 5 in the nation right now, but he really is I don't want to say the only guy that tries, but he does everything he can to try to get this team to where he knows that it can go. And Alston Mason is really just a great teammate. He is a pass-first point guard, but really has that great shot when he's open. And, yeah, he's really just the guy for Arizona State right now.
Yeah, so for everyone that doesn't know what I'm talking about when Arizona State needs a lot of glue, I'm going to touch on this really quickly. So over the past week, I think it was yesterday, it was announced that B.J. Freeman was no longer with the team. He's one of the leading scorer for the team when he got dismissed. Came following conduct detrimental to the team, according to AP News. He was ejected against Colorado and Arizona, suspended for the game in Oklahoma State. So just had a big stretch. There's been rumors flying around about what happened. I'm not going to get into that, but he's not with the team anymore, and it just put the team through a lot of turmoil, even though yesterday they beat Kansas State, which was a pretty interesting win for the team because, after you lose your top scorer, you don't expect to win. But going back to Alston Mason, the entire season has been one of the only guys who has been consistent throughout the entire year. Yeah, he had some free throw troubles a little bit earlier in the year, but overall he's been, in my opinion, he's been my favorite player to watch since game 1. He always seemed like he was trying his hardest. He always seemed like he was giving it his full 100% every single time he stepped on the court.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of just I really like the word consistent. I feel like that's the best way to explain him. And the last few games, I feel like he's kind of been really showing his leadership role as this team kind of is a little bit younger. We have Jaden Queens, who's been a really big part of the presence on the court, and he's so young. being able to have this leadership role to keep the game smooth and calm, collected is really important, and it is going to be really interesting how they adapt without Freeman. And yeah, Olsen for sure I think will be able to help with that. But, finishing up this season, they have BYU coming up, Utah, Arizona. Like, these are pretty, good games that are coming up. So hopefully he can continue on this streak.
Yeah, and ASU, of course, right now not in a place to make the NCAA tournament. Of course, if you somehow miraculously, like NC State last year, win the Big 12 tournament, you get that automatic bid. But yeah, this ASU team, they ran an 8-man, and now it's a 7-man with the dismissal of Freeman. So, yeah, Alston Mason has had to play those minutes. He's had to show up, and he's been showing out so far. And I think going into that final stretch, if ASU gets hot, they have a chance in the Big 12 tournament. They just need to get hot. They have 3 ranked opponents coming up. The biggest one, of course, at Arizona, the Territorial Cup of basketball, but this team really has potential. I say it every single time. This team has so much potential. They just don't do anything with it.
Maybe the loss of B.J. Freeman might help the team overcome some of their challenges. We don't know. We'll see what happens. Only time will tell. But for now, we'll move on to Arizona's prospect. It's Destiny Lunan, a senior guard from Millennium High School.
Yeah, Destiny, she's crazy. And also Millennium, just shout out, they're a really good sports school out here in Arizona. We will probably see them more throughout the show. But right now, Millennium's ranked number 2, and they're facing Xavier College Prep in the Open Division quarterfinals. But Destiny Lunan, yeah, she's a 6A Central Region Player of the Year, 6A Central Region Defensive Player of the Year. She's leading the team, scoring 20.9 points per game and 565 points total. She's ranked 8th in Arizona for scoring, 4th in Arizona for free throws. She's just a very strategic athlete, and it's incredible the product that she has.
Yeah, and look at where she's committed, NC State. They just beat number 1 Notre Dame in that insane game that went to overtime when Notre Dame made the buzzer beater to force it. But NC State, of course, number 2 in the ACC under only Notre Dame, number 9 in the country. So it really proves the recruit she is, the number 73 recruit nationally, the number 2 recruit in the state. But yeah, like you said, had offers from Florida, Syracuse, Arizona, but chose to go to a really prestigious program. And NC State's really building something. They barely lost to South Carolina, who was 1 at the time, barely lost to LSU, and then beat Notre Dame, of course. So in NC State and also Destiny, people need to watch out for them in women's basketball.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to see how women's basketball, the championship out here, plays out. Millennium, they've played Xavier twice this year, and they won, but they were pretty close games. And the first matchup, Destiny, she led the team with 23 points, 5 assists, and 6 steals. And then the last time that they matched up, they only won by 3 points, and she led the team with 18 of them. So I'm really excited to see. In our last prospect last week, Sydney Anderson, I'm interested to see if we might have a little bit of a matchup between her and Destiny. And it's just really, really cool to see women's basketball continue to flourish throughout the nation, and especially in Arizona.
Yeah, and shout out actually Arizona State women's basketball winning their first game in what felt like forever. I think it was like a 10 or 11 game losing streak. Pretty sure it was their third win in the Big 12. They beat BYU, so I bet they wish Destiny was going to Arizona State, but going to a little bit better of a program out there in North Carolina. But shout out to the women's basketball team for beating BYU and getting that win that they finally wanted.
Yeah, their first win in 12 games since January 4th. And they haven't won at home since New Year's Day. So, yeah, every ASU basketball team is going through the ringer right now, which will hopefully only make them better. We talked about it not last week, a week or so ago. A couple coaches might be on their way out, but again, only time will tell with those teams, as with most of these sports. And with Onward to Victory, we'll close out yet another successful show for Onward to Victory and Blaze Radio. My name's Colgin Hirschel.
I'm Rhiannon Boesl.
And I'm Taylor Gautney.
Thank you very much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.